Oh my God, is it real or is it generative AI? Maybe we're not really here. Anyways, welcome to the Green Room in a special edition a special Davos edition of Disrupt TV. And we're going to be here with some amazing guests, but we're going to do some quick introductions. And guys, tell us why you're here at Davos, and more importantly, what you might be talking about. Perry, I'll start with you, and I'll go to Dirk, and I'll go to Jim.
Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for having me, Ray and Vala. So we as DataDotOrg are here at Davos to learn, first of all, and have bilateral conversations with some terrific, smart people as we try to build the field of data for social impact. Also, we're here to launch a new report called Accelerate Aspirations, which is all about how we're going to build this emerging field and a call to action for philanthropy, academia, private sector, and the social sector to come together and solve important problems. Thanks for having me.
Wow. Hey, thanks a lot, Perry. Okay, we're going to go to Dirk. Dirk?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for having me as well. My name is Dirk Lueth. I'm co-founder and co-CEO of Upland, which is the Metaverse, which is based on the real world. We're currently live in a few cities in the US, but also Rio de Janeiro and Porto. And I'm also chairman of the Open Metaverse Alliance, which actually promotes interoperability. And that's one of the reasons I'm here actually in Davos. I was speaking on 3 panels, right, promoting what is interoperability about, why do we need it, and and then enjoying also the cold weather here.
Very, very cool. All right, Jim, quick, what are you here for?
Well, I work with an organization called Corporate Knights, which releases the Global 100. It's the ranking of the most sustainable large cap companies. And this year it was won by a steel company that is engaged in recycling, which is, it knocked off Vestas, the wind company, which was a big surprise. It was wild. We had Al Gore speaking at the dinner last night in the Belvedere, 50 people. It was just amazing. And
very, very cool.
But my real work is I focus on disruption. I write books and columns on disruption. And a little thing is Uber is worth more than every taxi cab company in North America added together. So digital transformation is essential today in order to thrive and go forward.
Very, very cool. All right. Well, hey, I'm going to turn it to you, Elle. We're going to do our countdown and we will kick off the show. Welcome to the Green Room. And this is a quick 30-minute version of Disrupt TV. So.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on a special edition of Disrupt TV live from the World Economic Forum's 2023 conference at Davos, Switzerland. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Digital Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next 30 minutes. This is an abbreviated version. Please follow us on Twitter at Disrupt TV Show. Send Ray, myself, our distinguished panel, your questions using hashtag DisruptTV, and we'll do our best to answer them in the next 30 minutes. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host, Ray Wang. He's the CEO and founder of Constellation Research. He's the best-selling author of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. And he's a regular television technology and business contributor on Fox Business, Yahoo Finance, Bloomberg. In my opinion, he's one of the top futurists to follow on Twitter at RWANG0. Welcome, Ray Wang, from Davos to Disrupt TV.
Hey, thanks a lot. I'm here with my awesome co-host, Vala Afshar. He's the Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce. He's also the author of The Pursuit of Social Business Excellence, and I hear he might be working on a new book. Executives around the world are paying attention to every one of his inspirational and insightful tweets, and when he's not hosting, keynoting, or leading events at Salesforce, you can find him speaking on business TV outlets such as Bloomberg and posting insightful analysis on ZDNet. But this is more important. We're here at the World Economic Forum. We are live here in Davos. And of course, we've got some amazing guests sharing different perspectives of the Davos experience. Who do we have to kick it off today, Vala?
Okay, I'm going to introduce all three guests at the same time because this is an abbreviated version of DisrupTV. I'll start with Perry Hewitt, Chief Marketing and Product Officer at DataDotOrg. DataDotOrg is a platform for partnerships to build the field of data for social impact. DataDotOrg works with organizations from all over the world to increase the use of data in order to improve the lives of millions of people. We have Jim Harris. He's one of the best follows on Twitter. He's a thought leader, powerful digital transformation keynote speaker, and author. Fortune 500 companies call on Jim's expertise on a variety of areas, including digital disruption and innovation. And we have Dirk, Lueth, co-founder and co-CEO of Upland, Metaverse, the world, the future world, author. He's a co-founder and chairperson of Open Metaverse Alliance for Web3. And Dirk has been on numerous panels at Davos talking about the importance of interoperability and the future of the metaverse. So welcome, Perry, Jim, and Dirk to our special edition Disrupt TV. Okay.
Hey, we're super excited to have you here.
I want to defer to you.
Yeah. No, we're super excited to have you here. And more importantly, you guys have been sharing different perspectives across what's been going on from sustainability to impact investing to the metaverse. And so I'm going to hit each one of you up really quickly. Dirk, I'm going to touch upon your area. I'm really talking about the open standards, the metaverse. You were part of the Wipro panel that we had earlier on Tuesday night, talking about where the metaverse is heading. I want to start with you by asking what's going on there and what changes have you seen as you've been talking to people at all these different events?
So as we all know, the metaverse itself is a very young industry, right? Just a quick, where we're coming from. Like when we incorporated our company, Upland.me, which was in 2018, which stands for Upland.me, the URL for metaverse. 2018, no one was actually mentioning that word, right? No one knew what it is, but it all has changed in 21. So fast forward, now we're in 23, and we see actually a lot of traction, and that's what's also for me very surprising here in Davos. There's so many companies building stuff for the metaverse. It can be either on the, let's say, B2B side, it can be on the consumer side and everything. And I think this is very encouraging because I think this is everyone sees and understands this is really the next generation of the internet where everything becomes more immersive. And we have many more ways to interact with brands, to interact with each other, and to create new things. But we can only interact together. And I was on 3 panels here. One of the main topics is when things are interoperable. That means you, as the user, you want to take items you own, you want to take your data, you want to take your identity, also the assets with you from one world to the other. And this is so important that we have that. The other important thing is that you actually own those things also, right? It doesn't help you if you can take them with you if you're not really owning them. And that's what the metaverse is about. When you think about the interoperability, that we want to set those standards, that we can actually do that as consumers.
Dirk, in 2018, when you launched your company, did you ever imagine in less than 5 years, a company like Accenture and Paul Daugherty would talk about onboarding 150,000 employees in their Accenture metaverse? Did you imagine the adoption would reach this level this quickly?
No, I did not expect that, to be honest. So our growth was very, very high. Right, so actually it sees that people are really, really interested in doing those things. But I think the most important thing is also what we need in the because we have all those different, let's say, I call them meta spaces, which are being built out across the metaverse, because there's only one metaverse, like there's one internet, right? But they're all not connected to each other. And I think we need something which is actually the glue, where I want to go as a consumer, where I want to go as an employee or someone, right? And I want to go from one world to the other. And that's what is currently missing. That's also, by the way, we're trying to build with Upland. We call Upland the Metaverse Super App, where people will be able to do that.
That's great.
No, that's very, very cool. Now, hey, Perry, I actually attended your session with Data.org and MasterCard, talking about using data to improve social impact, investment, and actually make some changes. We'd love to hear more about what's going on in that area, because this is a culmination of a lot of the work that you've been doing over the last, I'd say, I don't know, past 2 years. So.
Thanks so much for having me. So Data.org actually launched at Davos 3 years ago at 2020. We've had a little thing called a pandemic between now and then, but we have kept moving ahead, and we were really excited to be here, not only to celebrate 3 years, but to launch a new report called Accelerate Aspirations, which focuses on where are we with the field of data for social impact? What do we need to get done? And we sort of landed on 3 big conclusions. We need to create better data strategies. I'll echo Dirk's great point about interoperability. How do we make sure the social sector has access to data that's well-governed, interoperable, accessible to many? We need to build the talent pipeline. We had a report earlier this year called Workforce Wanted that talks about how we're working to get 1 million purpose-driven data practitioners by 2032. And this was a follow-on sort of call to action to do that work with some use cases from the field. And finally, we need to coordinate. We need to create better coordination among funders. I think, Ray, with your eye for efficiency, you would agree that a lot of philanthropic dollars can go places, but to coordinate those efforts, to make sure there aren't duplicative solutions being offered into the market, and to make sure that they're sustainable. And actually, we're seeing a lot of progress there. So that's sort of our call to arms. We're delighted to hear social impact, data for social impact across all the panels I've attended. And I was excited to hear that question asked at the Metaverse session as well. People are asking the important questions. You talked about in 1997, we had web, 1.0, 2.0, and, what are the do-over opportunities and moments? And one of those are to be smarter about data. And we at Data.org hope to be part of that solution. Thanks.
That's awesome. That's really great. It's amazing to see, the evolution of the web. It's equally amazing to see Ray take a selfie with Sir Tim Berners-Lee in the middle of the snow outside. And he just says, in his Twitter, he just says, me and Sir Tim Berners-Lee. And I wonder if people know there's the inventor of the web. So anyway, I love the Ray selfies. We'll get to that as a summary question. Jim, you are a disruption expert, world authority in terms of digital transformation and innovation. The theme of this year's Davos really leaned heavily into sustainability as an important theme. Can you talk about your takeaways of disruption coupled with sustainability? What can you talk to us about exciting things that are happening in that space?
Well, at our dinner last night, Al Gore gave an absolutely impassioned speech. I was deeply, deeply moved. We're facing this existential crisis. The world literally is going to come to an end unless we have profound change in our use of fossil fuels. And the transformation challenge ahead of us is huge, but we can do it. But we need to get way more aggressive in terms of the change than we are right now. So that was the concerning thing. And I'm reminded about the great phrase, we're living in the best of times, we're living in the worst of times. The climate crisis is the worst of times, but the technology is the best of times. I'm looking to the pandemic. The pandemic in just 2.5 years drove 10 years of change for many industries. And the first 90 days of the pandemic saw 10 years of growth in e-commerce or online shopping. And so we've seen huge transformations that would never have happened with telehealth, for instance. There are now 1 billion medical visits every single year in the US. 50% of all medical visits in the pandemic in China were by smartphone. So we're seeing the medical system was totally resistant to change, but the pandemic forced this amount of change, and the genie's out of the bottle. We're never going to go back to the way it was. I mean, I don't know about you, but I used to, when I had a problem, I'd book an appointment with my doctor. It would take 4 weeks. When I finally arrived, maybe my symptoms had gone away, but I'd be sitting in a waiting room with people coughing and sneezing and scratching. And it's the scratching people that really bother me the most. But, and I'd be there for a whole hour, and then she'd see me for 7 minutes, and then she'd send me next door to the lab where I'm with a whole new group of people who are sneezing and coughing and scratching, and they draw some blood, and then I go to the pharmacy where then a whole new group, and it's a whole half a day process, right? Well, with telemedicine, I get on same day, and I get a lab. I go to the lab same day, and then 2 days later, the thing, like the results I get online, and then I get a prescription online. So it's a 4-week cycle to just literally 2 days. And the genie is never going back in the bottle. We've seen how great this is from a customer perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of coughing and sneezing, it felt like it was pretty cold at Davos. We saw snow. I keep seeing Ray in the evening walking the streets getting snowed on. Ray, besides being cold and dressing appropriately at Davos, what's the mood like? By the way, my sense, watching remotely, and I've seen about 24 CEO interviews on various media outlets, and my sense is a bit of pragmatic optimism, a bit more optimistic than last year at Davos, but that's just my perception from outside. Can you talk to me about the mood? What's the mood like at Davos?
There's just a somberness in terms of the economic outlook, and you've heard me say this before. Since May, we've been psyching ourselves into a recession. It's like the longest anticipated recession ever, right? For North America, the Middle East, India and Australia. Everybody else is in recession. We know that, right? But for us here in the US, it's like, what the heck is going on? Like, let's psych ourselves into a recession. And so everybody's trying to, fall in the line. We're making our job cuts, we're reducing our, our expenditures. And so you have that conversation, and then you flip a switch and it's like, oh, there's all this cool stuff, right? Analytics, automation, AI, it's like taking over the world, right? So it's like a weird kind of vibe here. And then that's the regular Davos crowd sitting there talking about sustainability. And I'm talking to family offices, and they're like, we're pulling out of investments in sustainability. So it's like really, really weird. It's like Davos is like this, the Davos set is trying to find their bearings. And it's just really confusing at the moment. But that said, right, this is the largest World Economic Forum ever. And outside of the World Economic Forum is this group called Davos, led by Mark Terrell. There's 4,000 people outside around Davos talking about the future, and they're super excited. And to me, I don't know. We're getting a live view from Dirk here. Yeah. We're getting the street here. This is awesome. Man on the street. Dirk, will you just interview someone like randomly on the street and ask them what's going on? No, but you get the idea, right? The streets are packed. Everybody's outside. It's amazing. But hey, Dirk, what are you seeing out there right now? What does it look like? This is the evening crowd.
Place here where I am. So hopefully you can still hear me.
We can
still hear you.
Still hear me?
Yes. This is a first where our guest is walking around outside.
A roaming direct DisrupTV guest.
Man on the street. Here you go.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, if it were Davos, it would be a man.
Yeah.
We can put a woman on the street, not a problem. So,
Perry, what are you hearing over and over at Davos this year? And at the same time, what do you wish we could stop hearing?
So definitely I'm hearing a reassuring refrain of ESGs and social impact, and how do we get together to solve these problems? As the private sector says, hey, in COVID, we learned that there's a tremendous cost if the bottom falls out for our consumers, our partners, our vendors. So that's something that I'm really hearing and excited about. And what I'd like to stop hearing is, quite frankly, I was joking before, but, where are the women? The women are here. They're ready to work. They're ready to get the job done, but they aren't on the stages and in the meetings they need to be. So that's something I'd like to stop hearing. I'd like to stop hearing that people are looking for the competent, capable women to have these conversations. They're here, and not all of them have white badges. I'd like to see that change.
So I think only 25% of the Davos delegates are women, but on the promenade is the Equality Lounge, which is an amazing place. There are continuous panels of women who are doing incredible things, and we need that. We need them. They are an absolute essential part of this total mindset change we need to have going forward.
No, at Hub Culture,
Yeah,
they
Shelley.
hosted a wonderful event with one of the trustees from the Rockefeller Foundation and Dee. Really just an all-star panel of women. And at the end, they, people were just blown away by the work they're doing in, human trafficking, in economic development. They weren't all, sort of social sector projects, but really world-changing ideas and progress. And at the end, they said, and this is a side event.
Dirk, I want you to stay warm while you're out there. So my question,
I think I'm back now. I think I lost the Wi-Fi shortly. Can you hear me?
Yes, my question to you is,
wait, stop there, Dirk. Stop there, Dirk. Turn around and point into the lounge of the Salesforce lounge here, so that Vala can take a look to see what's going on. There you go.
This wasn't planned. This is great. Dirk,
listen, we live in a surveillance state, Vala. There you go. You can keep an eye on your people.
I'm going to email some of my colleagues I just saw, or Slack them. Dirk, what was the most inspirational thing that you experienced, or the most uplifting thing that you're going to take back to your team and to your clients?
So what I see is, that people kept on building, right? Even, I'm the blockchain metaverse space, right? And of course, there has been a downturn, but lots of people, they're not stopping, right? And I think, and they started, 1-2 years ago, and I'm very, very optimistic, for the outlook, specifically for that industry, because they will going to be released a lot of exciting products, which I think will also turn around to the whole narrative, and people say, oh, wow, this really adds value to whatever I'm doing.
Do you know which industry is going to lead the metaverse revolution to a tipping point? Is it retail? Is it auto manufacturing? We're working with a lot of car companies building their showroom in the metaverse and building their e-commerce and the entire purchase life cycle with digital twins of their, again, showroom, their cars, and any other customizations, making it a very personalized journey. What industry is going to really lead the way in the next 2-3 years with respect to metaverse adoption?
So if you think about consumer, I think it's still going to be gaming, because when you think about when you have a 3D room, right, you need to go there, you need to be able to do something, right? And then gaming, you can simulate lots of things, right? I think that's what we're going to see. But I think this is not bad, because people will then learn how to operate, how to do, walk around in the metaverse, how to do things. And then all the brands will benefit from it. It's going to be just natural for people, right? Instead of being in a game, now they can go to that showroom which you just mentioned, and they can enjoy, virtual car drive or whatever they are going to do. The other thing is, which is going to lead, besides gaming, is the whole social networking communication aspect of the metaverse. We see that already now, that a lot of, let's say, people are moving away from the social networks and they're moving into the metaverse because they find people they like with, common interest. And that is also going to drive a lot of metaverse adoption, which we are going to see.
Terrific.
One of the things that blew me away at CES is the CTA cited that there are 164 million self-professed gamers in the US, and they game on average 24 hours a week. That blew me away. I don't understand that, but then I was on a plane going to Vegas, and I saw a guy 2 aisles up in front of me playing a game for 5 hours on the flight. So the fact that we're gaming mobile means we're using time. And the theme of Davos is a fragmented world. And if you're a gamer, you experience like the metaverse. If you're not a gamer, you don't know what the hell is going on. You have no way of relating to it. So we do live in this fragmented world. It depends what social you're on, what channels you're on, what tools you use, and people have totally different experiences.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that. Hey, real quick, your predictions for the rest of the year. I'm going to go to Jim, Perry, Dirk, and a lightning round, and then we're going to take you guys out and do a summary between Vala and myself. So, Jim, what do you see for 2023?
Well, I see more digital disruption, and we talk a lot about tech, but we actually have to talk about people. The Great Resignation, 47 million people quit their jobs because the pandemic got us to think, what's important to me in my life? And it's not spending 2 hours a day in rush hour commuting to my job. I want control of my life. I want autonomy. I want flexibility. And healthcare professionals, hard to find. So Providence Health, they studied, and 40% of nurses' job was charting or typing or, thermometer in the mouth. Let's not talk about where else. Not where else the thermometer goes, just the mouth. Well, that's all we'll talk about. So, so they deconstructed the jobs and gave those jobs, that part of the job, to other people who don't need a registered nurse certificate. So we're going to see deconstruction of work and reconstructing it in a way that makes sense. So the tech is changing, but the org structures aren't changing as fast as the tech is changing.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Perry?
So I'm going to pick up and add a note of optimism there. I do think we're going to be in a year of reconstruction to the point of the fractured world. I think we've all kind of had it with the fractured world, and we're starting to see that politically, we're starting to see that socially, and people coming back together. So I'm feeling pretty optimistic that what we're going to try to do is, from our lens, it's about data for social impact. How do we apply data to these tough problems? But I think in order to do that well, it's not like, hey, that's a social sector problem or government will fix that. I think we're going to see, not without bumps, but an unprecedented level of collaboration among philanthropy, academia, government, and private sector, because we're all in this together and we all got to solve these problems together.
I love that.
Well said.
Dirk.
Yeah, so I think I'm a very optimistic person. I think we're going to see a quick upturn that we're all expecting, or many people are expecting at the moment. I'll give you one example. Back in 2000, we were also quite a bad situation with the whole economy, and unfortunately 9/11 happened. Everyone said, okay, now we're going to be for 5 years in a recession. Truth is, right, after that, actually the economy started to become better again, because the narrative was very positive. And I think we'll also have a positive narrative because exactly of that, what Jim also just said, because people will start seeing new opportunities when they actually do multiple jobs. So, the days of, having only one job is probably over. So you might have some jobs in real life, but then maybe you take one or two jobs in where in your virtual life, right? Where you actually start to earn some money, and which then complements to doing what you do. And that's, I think, we start seeing in 23. And because of that, there will be more positive and optimism coming towards the end of the year again.
I love that.
Wow. We got Dirk moving around the promenade. He's passing Cap Gemini, passing India on his way to the Polish house, I can see. Very, very good. We thank you, Jim Harris. You can follow him at Jim Harris. You can follow Perry Hewitt at Perry Hewitt. And of course, follow Dirk Lueth at DIRKLUETH. And of course, catch them there. Thank you so much for being on our special edition here. And Vala and I will actually figure out what else we'll try to summarize. So thanks a lot, and have a good Davos. I'll see you guys somewhere around the promenade, I guess, tonight.
Cheers, everyone. Stay warm. Stay warm.
Stay warm. Bye.
Isn't it amazing to have a chief marketing and product officer? Perry is exceptional, and I think this may be the first time I've interviewed a CMO who's also responsible for product. And I love Dirk. In the long run, the future is created by the optimists. So, I tend to be in that camp myself. So I love Dirk. And Jim's right. I don't know who said this. The future is here, but it's unevenly distributed.
Wait. We got a special guest. Hold on.
What? Look at this. Hey. Okay, everyone. We have Gurvinder, Singh, Sahni, Vice President and Strategic Advisor to Chief Growth Office at Wipro, joining us. Ooh. Those of you who don't know Wipro is a 75-year-old technology services company with over 250,000 employees serving 66 countries around the world. And one of their top executives is warmly invited to our special edition of DisrupTV. Welcome, Gurvinder. Welcome.
Hey, Vala. Thank you so much. Thanks, Ray. Sorry.
He is in the Congress Center. He's in the middle of the action. Look at this. Give us a pan. Can you show us what's going on here? Or
I'm in a room right now. So I was finally able to figure out a room from where I can take this call.
Yeah.
So,
well, listen, Wipro had a very large presence at Davos this year. Now that you've joined us, and you've been hosting and spending time with some of the best and brightest executives around the world and luminaries. I keep seeing photos of you and these extraordinary people. Tell us about the Wipro campus, your engagement all week, And what's the biggest aha that you've had, rubbing elbows with the best and brightest?
Well, the show is still going on, so I think I'll take another day to probably summarize. But what I can tell you is that, and we of course partner with Ray for a special session on Metaverse for Good.
Yes.
I think our pavilion was a huge success. We started day zero with a session with Bloomberg featuring our CEO along with brands like IKEA and Schneider Electric. Day two, we partnered with Pure Storage, where we focused on ESG. And then, of course, there was a panel on Tuesday, moderated by Ray himself, which focused on Metaverse as a force for good. And what a turnout! We had Upland CEO, we had Mike.
We just spoke to Dirk. We just spoke to Dirk.
Mobius. We had Honeywell, our CEO for America, Srini Palya was there, and Sandy Carter. And when I saw Kathy Hackle in the audience, I was like, wow.
I've read your book.
And she was on stage the day after.
Yes.
And she launched her new book as well. And I think the timing of that was perfect. And then I think Stephanie had a session focusing on ESG as well. Plus, Thierry was actually inside Congress Center along with Vimeo CEO and Adam Grant, to speak about talent. So talent.
I saw your chairman, Rashad Primji, sharing a photo that I think you had taken of him, saying that he can't believe he's giving an interview at -1 degree outdoors.
Very cold. It suddenly got very cold. So yes. Yes.
It takes a special level of energy to be in a Q&A when you're freezing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, hey, Gurvinder, thank you so much for just dropping in. We know you're busy. You're in the middle of some meetings that are there. And, thank you for, hosting us here at Davos in the Wipro Pavilion. We've been moving in and out of there. It is the last day for many people here. Some people spend a Friday for that. And I think other people are going to be skiing in the mountains of Davos on Saturday and Sunday. So thank you so much for being here, Gurvinder. It's definitely a treat to have you here. So
thanks, Ray and Vala. And Vala, I spent a lot of time at Salesforce as well. I mean, it was amazing to see the amount of presence. There was a lodge, there was a chalet, and then the dome. Salesforce is having the best parties in town. So
that's
a lot of good insight as well.
That's great.
You couldn't ask for better.
I look forward to your LinkedIn summary of your lessons learned.
Yes.
I want to hear about things that you may have changed your mind based on the presentations and data that was shared. You do an amazing job of reflecting on the books that you read, the podcasts that you listen to, and the events that you go to. So anyone who's listening to this, please follow Gurvinder. You see his Twitter handle right on the screen. Also follow him on LinkedIn.
Yes.
He's got over 15,000 followers that love his reflective analysis of the world around us. And I don't know anyone who reads more books than you. So keep us educated. Keep us educated.
I can humbly acknowledge one thing: all the books that I read, thanks to the guests that come on your show, it really helped me in a lot of conversations there. So thank you to both of you.
I appreciate you.
Thanks
Thank
a
you,
lot,
my friend.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Gurvinder.
What a treat you have. You've been surrounded by all these extraordinary people all week. Whether it's inside the perimeter of Davos or thousands of people outside the perimeter. Can you, does it deepen your sense of gratitude when you realize that you and I and all the folks that were on the show today, we're a privileged few. Privileged in that we get to connect with some of the biggest titans of industry. Privileged in that we get invited to these events where our points of view are also welcomed. What's your feeling when you leave a week of just being surrounded? I mean, I saw you with photographs with the CEOs of Fortune 100 companies, inventors of the World Wide Web, inventors of so many technologies that are part of our lives. Do you just get back to the room and just sit on the bed and go, wow?
There's just amazing people here. And I think that when you're here, you have a spirit, a culture of abundance, right? You realize that anything is possible if you get people together to do that. But as you probably know, I wrote a blog post. It's got almost 112,000 views or more at the moment. But you can come up with all the best ideas, but if you don't sell it to people, it just doesn't work, right? And you learn that, right? And I think it's really important, right? The theme here at Davos is really about fragmentation. To make and reduce fragmentation, you really have to get the buy-in and the public's trust. And I think what we're seeing, and the Edelman Trust Barometer was released. They always do it in Davos. And the thing that's, they basically summarize that corporations are the most trusted institutions on the planet at the moment, right? It's not the, governments, it's not their institutions, it's, not politicians, it's not sports stars, it's companies. And there's also a danger of companies moving too far in certain directions where they alienate their customers or alienate their position. And that was in the Edelman Trust Barometer. So we've got to figure out how to get this public trust back, even though there's a Davos agenda. How do you bridge that gap? And there are a lot of people working on it, right? You've got NGOs here, you've got organizations that are focused on this, you've got family offices that are investing in this, right? So there's a lot of work there, and I think the bridging the gap is what's going to help with the fragmentation.
Will this week impact your editorials in terms of the research you're going to do in the next 12 months? Was there a topic that surfaced to the top where you and the team at Constellation were paying more attention to as a result of the conversations? Or is your research thesis aligned with what you felt was top of mind with the CXOs that were at the event?
Yeah, so I think a lot of our research, there's some uber forces that are just surrounding us, right? We can't get around it, right? So globalists versus nationalists, right? We're in the middle of a wave of deglobalization, right? And so that's going to have a lot of implications, from supply chains to where your chips or pharmaceuticals come from to, what are people doing to actually, double down on redundancy and resilience as we go to there, right? There's a backdrop of US versus China. There's a very uncomfortable tension as these two global superpowers continue to battle over almost every area. We've got these new developments between BRICS, right? Developing markets versus the G7, right? And you can see those tensions as people are trying to figure out who pays for sustainability or who gets to, expand their markets at the cost of another market, in a very kind of interesting conversation. And then, there's everything around centralization versus decentralization. Do we provide or protect our individual privacy and rights, or do we centralize so that we get more efficiencies? And people are asking those questions. And then, of course, there's this notion of, do experts matter when the general public has seen them fail? And how does that work? And, how do we actually get institutions to be strengthened because there's an attack on institutions, right? And then when that hits the research, it's basically, if you think about, take AI, right? Well, what rules are we going to do with AI? Do we have, ethical policies that are going to be adopted in the same way everywhere around the world? Probably not, right? Does the access to AI or the metaverse create even more digital divides with people who don't access those, right? So we're raising all these types of questions, right? And you'll see that in the research, right? As we think about what companies are going to have to do to actually improve in access, right? Or what companies will actually have to do to get folks trained or feeling up to speed, or even the trust in AI system, right? So all those definitely have implications in the research, Vala.
Putting aside the political, social, societal elements, just from a purely technological lens, what was the most talked about technology at Davos 2023? Was it artificial intelligence?
It's all generative AI. You cannot
generative.
You cannot,
oh well, that's the Chat GPT effect. As you
it's
know,
all Chat GPT.
It took 5 days for it to reach 1 million users. It took Facebook 3.5 years. It took Twitter 2 years. It took Spotify 2 years. It took Pinterest 1 year, and it took Chat GPT 5 days. So, and that was in November of 2022. So it's very recent, top of mind. So do you think the open AI innovation was really the thing that brought this whole excitement around generative AI, which is using AI to create new content, in this case, conversational-like engagement with humans and chatbots?
Yeah, no, we're definitely getting those conversations. Like, people started delivering their speeches and reading something, and then people would say, "Oh, well, that was generative AI. I didn't actually write that. ChatGPT wrote that." Right? So, almost every other presentation had some ChatGPT example going on there. I think that was the hot thing. So you're going to leave wondering, okay, where am I going to use generative AI? But the reality is, generative AI is going to disrupt search. Right? why search when you can actually get the final product, right? I mean, we're going to see that not just on the chat side. You also have companies, that are doing that on the visual sides, on the image side, right? And I think that's going to be real cool. Like take Stability AI and there's work on the video side, even though they just got sued for Getty Images for like putting all that stuff there. So we're going to see generative AI play a huge role, and people are walking around talking about Web3 blockchain. Still, they're talking about the metaverse. Those are big things. And of course, on the policy side, people are talking about impact investing and where they can actually make more progress on the sustainability side.
On your Metaverse panel, you had Mike Sutcliffe, who's the CEO, who's the co-founder of Mobius, a new company that was launched. Actually, it was launched at your annual conference, Constellation Connect Enterprise, in 2022. And Mobius is about human connection. It's a human connections company. It's a platform that empowers a new ecosystem of expressions and clearer communication, sharper comprehension. Did this transparent computing phenomena, Mobius, and the technologies around it, were those also a topic of interest at Davos?
Well, I've been following Mike in and out of meetings, and there's so much interest in terms of what they're able to do, right? Because it's the ability to actually take Web 2.5, right? The transition from 2D to 3D and actually start there. I mean, not having to wear glasses or goggles or be bogged down by battery life or cords, right, is a huge improvement, right? I mean, I think at one of the events in the Bahamas, actually, or I think it was like crypto, some kind of crypto event that was going on. I mean, you were seeing people say, hey, look, if I'm going to get into the metaverse, how would I do it differently, right? And, can actually find a way that's a little bit more inclusive. And this is one of the things that people are seeing. They're seeing training examples, customer experience use cases. They're all popping up. And I think almost every person I was around when Mike Sutcliffe, the CEO of Mobius, showed the technology, they were just excited. Like, oh my God, like how to get started. So that was a pretty interesting piece. So
my last question to you is, you advise Fortune 100 companies, you advise startups and small business innovation disruptors. Let's focus on the smaller business. And let's say you are in a position of advising the CEO in terms of go-to-market for 2023 and beyond. Let's say the next 2 years, 24 months. Based on your observations at Davos, based on your, putting your chief research officer hat on, how would you advise entrepreneur CEOs of smaller companies in order to position themselves for success in the next 24 months?
Number one, figure out how to actually get to operational efficiencies. Analytics, automation, and AI are going to take you there. That gets you started. And then you can, once you master that, you can start using that to get to strategic differentiation, figure out new types of business models. I think that's going to be the first piece to keep, SMBs, in place. The second part is you're going to start seeing alliances that are going to form, and they're marketplaces. And what you want to do with those marketplaces is participate by sharing your data and using those data and insights to create what I said in the book, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, how to build data-driven digital networks. If I were to write another book, which I'm not sure I will do, but if I were to write another book, we'd be talking about data-driven digital networks as new asset classes, because the network effects that are being built in these data-driven digital networks means that you can actually start getting pricing signals, right? You're getting sensing signals as to, what features are more important or what the public is looking for, right? You can start preventing areas around risk and fraud. And that creation of those networks is where small businesses are going to have an advantage against larger players in the marketplace. So we're going to see more of that. And then the valuation of that asset class, of that data and the insights in these networks is going to be a whole new different animal. And that's actually what gets me excited, because we're starting to see them form. I was talking to the Boston Consulting Group X team. They were talking about how they built a marketplace for farmers, right? Just to figure out where to plant things or what to plant or when to do that, and that's going to be a whole new asset class on its own. So this creation of brand new asset classes, I think, is going to happen as SMBs band together and as different types of networks actually come together.
I love that. Operational efficiency and the power of the network and the ecosystem. Ray, closing remarks after spending a week at Davos, Switzerland at World Economic Forum 2023.
good cleats are awesome. No, I'm just kidding. You really need to get traction moving around. I'm
Keep the
getting
ears
28
warm.
to 30.
Keep the ears warm.
I have no hats. I need something, but I'm getting 28 to 32,000 steps, and good food is hard to find in Davos. I'll just leave it at that. No, but closing remarks. Look, the world is in chaos. We can definitely feel you feel systems are breaking. You feel like traditional institutions are falling apart. I think it's up to us to be able to build those new bridges and to bring people together. And I think it happens when companies are authentic, individuals are authentic, when we can actually build trust. I think we have a tough time building trust, given the fact that you actually have to get buy-in. You actually have to have debate. You actually have to have people contribute for trust to occur. And I think we can do a better job of trying to facilitate those conversations. Because if we don't, the world really will fall apart, not for climate change or not from wars or not from, it's just the societal structures are going to fall apart, and then everything will fall apart after that, right? And I think it's important for those fabrics of trust to be built and to be maintained, and that to be more valued first in terms of getting people's trust, earning their trust, so that we don't have that fragmentation.
Great summary. Ray, thank you so much for joining us from Davos, Switzerland at World Economic Forum. You'll be on transit. You'll be traveling tomorrow when we have our regular program, Disrupt TV. We have extraordinary guests tomorrow, including Whitney Johnson, who was our first guest on the first ever Disrupt TV show 6.5 years ago. And now nearly 1,000 interviews later, Whitney will be joining us along with other incredible guests. I'm sure you'll have your weekend watching of our recorded session.
I'm going to miss Dr. Okay, I'm going to miss Dr. Tina Opal and Beth Livingston. And of course, right, and the GuideStar CEO, I forgot, I think it's Jacob Harold. So but Liz will take my place, and definitely she'll be a lot more dynamic than me. So
we are in good hands with Liz, and have a safe travel back, and I'll speak to you next Friday on Disrupt TV. Thank you everyone for watching the special edition of World Economic Forum at Davos 2023 edition of Disrupt TV. Thanks everyone. Be safe.